Great. Okay, we're up and running. All right. So again, if you have a question, open your mic, ask away. Welcome to everybody. I am so happy. It's so exciting. I see all these faces. It's really amazing. This is a class that I love to do. It's a subject that I'll talk about endlessly. And we're going to do practice. I think the best thing is to do practice. So while I'm kind of giving the introduction, if you don't have a pencil and paper, find it for yourself. You'll need something to write/draw with. And tonight, not too particular, I'll talk about materials a little bit tonight, but just something that you can make marks with, and that's good enough. If you're comfortable drawing with markers or with brushes, those are fine. If you want to work on thicker paper, thinner paper, even the back envelope or just a pencil is fine tonight. It's all about just mark making. So give everybody a second to track down something. That's cool. Okay, and I'm going to use the bell. It's a little bit like what do you call stereotype meditation practice to have the bell, but I love the bell. And I think a lot about why it's used. And the bell was used, you know, historically to get everybody's attention. And when there was an emergency or a meeting or a notice, we used the bell. And so I like it that way. Plus, it has beautiful sound. And when you hear the bell, it's really to bring your attention back to yourself into the center. So when I use the bell, it's usually the start of an exercise, and then I'll use the bell again to kind of gently bring everyone back from an exercise. So you can feel free to really let yourself go into the practice, into the drawing, into the mark making as I introduce it. And then just you can trust that I'll bring you back in a good time. And it's not a bad idea to use a bell or use an alarm in your own daily practice to set a timer if you want to let yourself go and just let yourself draw, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, getting away or taking too long or that sort of thing. So that's a nice thing. Okay, so I've taught this class quite a bit over the last few years. My plan for tonight and the next few weeks is just to slowly introduce material. And I've sort of designed every week to be a kind of self-contained unit. So you should feel that if you can't make it, that it's not a progression. So if you miss 1 week, that you have missed something that you can't catch up. That's not like that. Every week is its own little lesson, its own little self-contained unit. So if you come this week, you don't come next week, or you like it and you want to invite someone and they can come next week, you haven't gotten behind or anything. So there's no fear there. Plus, I am recording them. I'm not exactly sure what I'll do, but if people want to look back at some of the lessons, I can make those available. What I run into when I teach the workshop, and several people here have been to my workshops, and I even did a whole day-long workshop that Wendy came to, and there's just so many aspects to putting together creativity and contemplation, to putting together meditation and art making. There's so many aspects and so many ways to go about it that usually I just don't have enough time in a day to go over everything. So I'm gonna slow down and I'm gonna take small parts of it and just kind of really do them completely as I can. And so I hope you'll appreciate that. And tonight is really just about our materials and just a very basic practice. And I always worry about giving really simple meditation instructions or drawing instructions, because I feel like people will think, oh, this is really simple. I want to learn how to draw really well, which we'll get to. We'll get to all the rendering and things like that. But even in the very basic meditation classes, you might have an instruction like pay attention to your breath, or follow the breath when you feel it in your at your nostrils, or follow the breath when you feel it in your belly. And that may be an instruction for an hour meditation. That may be instruction that you work on for a very long time. And so try not to be fooled by the complexity of what I'm asking you to do, because what you find in meditation practice is these simple exercises are meant to slow you down. And that's kind of where in this period now, we're just like all slowing down. So I just want to start with just a big breath. Just everybody just let's just, okay, we have time. We have time. We have time tonight to just kind of have a good time and relax and learn a few things and hear a few stories and make some marks and try something new, and that'll be really fun. So we're just gonna go with that attitude. Good breath, and we really start with the breath. So we'll start with our breathing. Okay. So we're just gonna ground ourselves. We're gonna give up. We don't have to believe anything about this. You're gonna find out for yourself if this works. You'll do the practice. You'll decide. And no goals here really. I'm making no promises. It's just to be here and to experience the mark making and the drawing, and we'll see where that goes. And I'll have some things to say about where it will go. Okay, so let's just open the space. First, notice how you're situated in your space. Now tonight is a first time, so if you might have kind of run over, maybe this is going to work. What's John going to talk about? Let me just see. So you're not a, so let's get a minute and just kind of get ourselves situated. Okay. And we'll need, you'd want a little elbow room. Maybe you'll want a little room. You want a way to draw. So you want to be able to situate whatever you're going to draw on. I use these little cards a lot, and sometimes I use a pencil. So you want to have a place where you can place that. And okay, maybe a table is good. Maybe your knees are good. Maybe whatever. But most important thing is you're comfortable with it. You feel comfortable with it. Okay. So feel how you're situated. And that you have, you have some materials here. Okay. So the very first thing we're going to draw our attention to is the marker. I'm going to say pencil, but if you're using a marker or a pen or whatever, you'll understand. And we just want to hold it in our hand and just notice how it feels in the hand. Just notice how it feels. Notice how you're holding it. Okay, and then how many different ways can we hold it? Okay, so I usually write like this when I'm writing letters and notes and when I'm writing words, but sometimes I hold it like this way when I'm drawing or shading. And sometimes I'll hold it like this if I want to draw. So let's manipulate it in your hand a little bit, get for it, and we're just paying attention to the pressure that we're putting on the pencil. Now this pencil is not round, it has little flat sides to it, so I can roll it in my hand and I can feel the flat sides. We're getting familiar with it, but we're also kind of raising our awareness and slowing down our thoughts and slowing down our timing. Just say, yeah, here's a pencil. Here's a pencil in my hand. How interesting. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move the pencil a little bit toward the paper, and we're going to let it touch the paper. We move it down and we touch the paper with it, and then we can feel two things. We can feel how tightly we're gripping the pencil as we put it down to the paper, and we can also feel how hard we're pushing down onto the paper. Just things to notice. Now, when you're get instruction, for instance, in a walking meditation, which is very common on retreats and such, that they'll sit for a while and notice the way that they sit, and then do walking and notice the way that your foot touches the ground, and notice the way the foot pushes and moves the body forward, and then notice the way the foot lifts off the ground. We're going to do a similar thing with the pencil. We're going to touch the pencil to the paper, and then we're going to move it slightly along, and then we're going to lift it up. And that's all. And we can notice, again, the way we're holding the pencil and the tightness of our grip, which we may want to ease up or tighten further. The pressure with which we push down on the paper. And then how we pull it along. And this is the origin of the word draw, that a lot of times engravings were made by artists, and in engravings, the engraver is usually pushed along the plate where the engraving was. And so when silver point and other tools came out, instead of pushing it, they were pulled or drawn. And so drawings were made with that motion. So as you move your hand, you draw that pencil along the paper. So we draw it along and we can, again, feel the pressure of the pencil onto the paper. We can also feel some of the texture of the paper and maybe even the texture of the underlying surface if the paper is thin. And then we can notice that there is some judgment going on, some idea kind of creeping in about how long that should go on. How are we deciding that? How far should that line go? And it can go however far you want, as long as we can kind of notice that we're deciding that. Something's just, I think I have a frame that it should be this long, or maybe I have a worry I'll fill up the page, so I'll make them short. It's like, what, who's deciding that? How's that getting decided? And then when we reach that end and we've decided somehow that that's the end, then we lift that up and we come back and we touch it down again. And so we have that little space, and let's not forget that either, from when we lift the pencil to when we touch it back down again. So let's try to work for a minute or two noticing that cycle. Okay, that was really, I don't know if it's because everyone's muted, but it was beautifully quiet in here. Thank you all. I see everybody working, which is really fun. Okay, so that exercise alone could occupy you quite a long time, and I've done that for quite a long time. And if you really get into some deep news cycle anxiety, I would just say, like, make a few lines on the page and just notice your hand, because that it will give you some relief. It can work, and any of these really will work. And I should say that there's no exercise that's preferenced over another, and there's no exercise that's better than another or more sophisticated or anything like that. In fact, what I hope will happen in introducing a lot of exercises is that you'll find one that makes you happy, that appeals to you, that you think is fun. And that's the one you'll practice, because all of them will point you to the same place with the right frame of reference. So simple breathing, simple mark making are just as effective and whatever successful as any other. So yeah, feel free to practice any of them. Okay, so now we go a little bit further in that direction of mark making and the length of the mark. So one of my favorite artists from the early 20th century was named Paul Klee, and he described a line as a point in motion. So he saw a line as inherently dynamic. He didn't see a line as a static thing on the page. He saw a line as the trace of where the hand had been. And in fact, that really inspired me when I was doing sort of my scientific diagrammatic drawing, to say that every drawing was just a graph, a diagram of the movement of the hand. And at its very base, that's really what it is. It's just tracking the motion of the hand. So he said, we'll set the point in motion, and it can go for a walk. It'll take a little walk for walk's sake. So we're just going to take the pencil and we're going to touch it to the paper, and we're going to let it go for a walk. So now we're working with that discernment that before was just having to judge whether or not the line was long enough, suited us to be long enough. We're going to let that kind of wander around, and you might start to see what will become a very familiar thought arising, which is, you know, is this good, or what am I doing, or is this right? This kind of inner critic voice that might come. So that's a good thing. You might cause you a little tension to notice that it comes up or to see it, but in fact, it's very good. And if you can, while you're doing this, kind of scribbling around and letting the pencil wander around the page, just watch that and see if it comes up and when it comes up, just for a little bit. So we're taking a line on a walk here for a minute or so. See what thoughts come up. Yeah, so often this exercise causes a little more tension because the mind really likes structure. And so there's a lot more questioning. So try to rate to yourself. How would you rate to yourself having let the line wander a little bit? How would you rate your freedom in this? Were you boldly free with this? Were you tightly making marks? Were you able to just open up and let it go? I got an 8. Okay, good. Got some free. Yeah, could do you? Yeah, everybody could hold up the number. That would be good. I was 4 or 5. I wasn't that free. 6. Yeah, it's 7th. Okay, a 5. 5. Yeah, good. Okay. Any 2s, 1s or 2s? Maybe no. Everybody's pretty loose here. This is good. We have a sophisticated drawing crowd. Okay, any 10s? That would be good. Just like let it loose. Yeah, Robert, I get it. That I believe. Robert's a heavy practitioner. Michelle too, probably. Okay. Yeah, so the thing is, if you can do that scribbling exercise, it's really freely possible and not feel like, you know, you're like it. Well, I'd say this, not feel that it's bad to feel like a kid, but just feel like a kid. That's a really great place to find yourself. And in fact, there's a story of when the Buddha had gone through all of his austerity and his time in the jungle and having a very restricted diet and being, you know, meditating all day, and found the limits of that sort of practice, and he was looking for a new path, a way to move forward. He remembered a time when he was very young, and he was sitting in a field under a tree, and he felt joy. He felt this joyful openness, this kind of wonder that a child will feel seeing the world new. And it was through that inspiration and that direction of that joy that he was able to open up and make the final trek to his enlightenment. So it's really a great time if you can notice the tightness in doing something like scribbling and see just what it is that may be holding you back from just kind of letting out. And as we do the exercises and more comfortable in drawing, hopefully you'll get more and more comfort and experience. Of course, then you might also get tight about what you're doing, but hopefully we'll just move more and more toward freedom and more toward openness toward what we're doing. Okay. Let me say, yeah. Okay, now we're going to do some more structured exercises. Okay, so we're going to put the pencil down, and we're going to press it really hard at one point of the page. So I don't know if you can decide. We're going to move the line horizontally, so you can move left to right or right to left, however you're going to do. So put it down where you want to start the line, and we're going to push with a lot of pressure. I'm not going to say break the pencil, but really, use some pressure. And the first time you can test it, and you'll get some feeling for it. But we're going to put it down, and then we're going to move left to right, and we're going to go from heavy pressure, lighter and lighter and lighter, all the way until the pencil lifts off the page. We're just going to go pencil down, and then we start moving. I'm moving left to right, pushing it really hard, and then lightening, 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 like that, all the way to light. Okay. So let's do that, about a minute of that one. Hard to see them. Okay. These are mine here. It's kind of dark to light, but not so practiced on that. Getting a feel for the pencil, getting a feel for changing our pressure on the pencil. Yeah, let's see, Lauren, you want to hold it up there? Oh yeah, they look pretty good. Yeah. Awesome. Simple, but you direct your attention, you direct your concentration to sort of one aspect of the drawing, and then we let that roll. Okay, let's do one more similar, but this time we're going to make vertical lines, and you also have to decide right to left or left to right. So start on the side of the paper where you want. Okay, and then the first vertical line that you draw should be the darkest. So we draw one line, try to be consistently dark, consistent pressure along the length of the line, and then next time slightly less pressure, and then slightly less pressure and slightly less pressure. Okay, but he's probably getting to the lighter part. So how long did you make each line? How careful were you to try and grade the lightness as you went? How many different lines did you make? Did you make 20? Did you make 10? Did you make 3? Let me see, Julie, what you got? 8. Yeah, okay, that's good. I like that. I like that they kind of got shorter as you went. I think that's interesting. Oh yeah. Is that just an ink marker? Oh yeah, wow, that's hard to do. Yeah. With the ink marker, it's hard to make them lighter. Oh yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, got all arranged on the page differently. Cool. Okay. All right. So one more in this this little series is that we're going to make lines, and you're going to make 2 lines for each mark. We're going to make a set of marks. Each mark is 2 lines, and the 2 lines can have any relationship that you want in terms of darkness and geometric relationship. So you can make 2 lines, heavy cross lines. They can be parallel, they can be skew, they can touch one another, they can have angles between each one. They don't have to cross. But try and vary the line so one is a different density than the other. So we have a relationship between 2 lines, and we're going to make you know, a set of those, and we're going to go for about a minute or a minute and a half with that, and go for a little bit. Just making line pairs and relationships. And again, now while this is going on, and I'm going to talk a little bit during this one, we're just going to ease in the mindfulness into these situations. Notice when you get taken up with making the determinations, if your awareness of the state of what's going on dies down. And then notice maybe in the little interim time, remember we pick up the pencil and we move it back in that little gap. Do we evaluate? Do we judge? Is that going on? See if you see it. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. But when you remove the pencil from the second line, what comes to you? What's the feeling? What's the thought that comes when you look back at that? Think like, is this a good one? Is this a strange one? I'll do this different this time. Well, now I'll do it this way. Yeah.
What I do with the second one is look at the shape that the 2 make together. That's where my focus shifts. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to happen or not.
That's okay. Sure. Just that's good. And also when you finish the second one, to notice whether you had an expectation for what it should look like, and whether that got, really the point is to notice what comes up. Something will come up, and we're just going to practice a little bit noticing it coming up. Because we know at that moment we're going to think something. Later we'll look more at the content of that. We can be really quick to decide if we like it or not. That's a thing to pay attention to. We seem to do that a lot in the world. When we see something, we have a reaction, whether we like it or not. We can really look at that happening when we do this. Also, it can be tantalizing because sometimes it does something that surprises us or amazes us or brings us joy, and that's also really good. And that makes us want to continue. Okay, I'm going to say a little bit about materials, but and you can continue making the 2 marks with that. What I really like, which could be really fun, and I think you should try, is when I'm in sort of like information giving mode, which I'm about to go into talking about materials a little bit. Do the drawing. You can go back. You can pick one of the practices we've already done. The line lengths, just noticing the pressure to light, the line on a walk, the parallel lines, the 2 lines, any of those, if one of them suited you, or you can stay with the 2 lines. But it's really great if you're able to continue to just mark make and observe and kind of sort of keep what I'm saying in the peripheral in your awareness. Let's see how that goes for you. Okay, so I'm a daily drawer on these cards because I like to work in a kind of a random access way with the drawings I have, and you'll see when we talk about persistence and reading the drawings why that works for me. But I also have notebooks, sketchbooks, and things like that. This is just a Strathmore sketchbook. They're really inexpensive, easy to get. The pages are like 8.5 by 11. It has what's the weight of it? I think it's like 90 pound. It's called. That's a pretty medium. Oh, 50 pounds. It's kind of a light sheet. It's not quite newsprint. But it's really nice and light. So the things to pay attention to are, yeah, the weight of the paper, the thickness of the paper, if it has a tooth to it, if it has a smooth surface or a rough surface. Those are all things you can pay attention to. And if you don't have a paper that you regularly use, then I would encourage you to try a bunch of different ones, try different papers. And again, noticing that discernment and noticing that feeling of joy that might come up when something feels right, and sort of move in that way that increases your freedom, that increases your joy in what you're doing. And if you do actually have a kind of paper that you use regularly, I would encourage you to try a bunch of different papers and see how they work and see if you like those. Because sometimes you can get stuck a little bit. And that's equivalent to like if we are meditating and we get very good at one style meditation, and then it just becomes a regular thing, and we kind of get again into a rut, and we kind of fall asleep on that. So the idea is to kind of wake ourselves up all the time by trying stuff and trying new things. So yeah, sketch pads are good because they keep it all together, and they're really easy to travel with, and they're easy to put in a backpack or a pocket or a purse or something like that, and they stay around, and they're easy to pull out, and they're easy to conceal your work so not everybody can see it if you're drawing out in public someday in the future. And they're easy to keep track of. So sketchbooks are good, and I have a lot of sketchbooks, and I do work in sketchbooks. But when I'm doing my daily work, when I'm in the studio, I work on these cards, which are, it's called multimedia artboard. It's just something I found years ago. It has a stiffness. It's a little bit like an index card, except it's stiffer than that. And that's what I choose to use. And I'll just show you, like my daily work. Like I just have stacks of these guys. If you've been to the studio, you'll see like just stacks of these. And there's just drawings and more drawings and more drawings. And if you don't know, I draw daily. And at the end of the day, I do more than one drawing a day. But at the end of the day, I choose one of the drawings and I scan it and I put it on a site called iClock.com. That's this whole stack of drawings. So I try to share those drawings. At least one a day with everybody. And as part of this class, I haven't been doing it on social media, but as part of this ongoing class, I'm going to start sharing more on social media as well. So if you want to share your drawings that you're making tonight, and okay, it's an exercise, but it's still really interesting, and I'm interested in seeing it, and it might help others to see what you've done, and it's not a competition. I want to really emphasize drawing is not a competition. So if you want to share and you're comfortable sharing, I do have a group called Drawing Your Own Path on Facebook, and sometimes people post their work there. Or if you put it on Instagram and you follow me, I'll follow back, and so I can see, because I know there are a number of people that do post their work online, and it's great to follow. Okay, so paper is really fun. And if you go to a paper store or a good art supply store, yeah, you might spend a lot of time testing a lot of different paper and seeing it. Also, Dick Blick has a pretty good selection of drawing papers. Okay, markers and pens, another thing you could spend quite a bit of time on. I generally use 9H, which is probably the hardest pencil you can get. The way that graphite is made, it's a mixture. I mean, the way pencil leads, they're called leads, but there's no lead in them. It's a mixture of graphite and clay. And the ratio of graphite, which is the dark marking part, to the clay, which is the hard part, determines how dark the pencil is. So the softer ones are less clay and more graphite, because graphite is very soft. So the B pencils like 6B, 7B, 8B are very soft, and they put out a lot of graphite. And the harder pencils in the H line, 2H, 4H, 6H, this is a 9H, have much more clay in them. And one reason I use it is because I'm often run my hand on the paper. Like I often have a problem smearing because my hand gets on the paper, and these don't smear very well. And also when I traveled, I use the 9H because I carry the cards around and I stack them and they don't smear as much. So I started with the 9H and I like it. And if you can learn to shade with the 9H and get darker shades, then you can really learn to shade well. And the other way works. If you work with a B and you learn to shade and you learn to go to lighter shades with the Bs. Most school pencils are either HB or 2B. That's the sort of standard pencils that you see a lot. Okay. One I recommend for a lot of people in the class is called an ebony. It's made by a company called Prismacolor. When I do a workshop, I get a big box of ebony pencils. And when I was in art school, we used these ebony pencils. And there's a couple of reasons why I love the ebony. One is that the lead part is really thick. And when you sharpen it, you get this great, you can see this, you get this great distance from here to here. You get this big open space of graphite. Is that an ebony, Shelby? Yeah, good. The ebony, you can use the point of the ebony straight down and get a nice fine line, a good dark fine line, and then you can turn it on its side and you can shade. Exactly. Yeah, you can shade. And that's a really versatile pencil. It's a great pencil to draw with. And I'm drawing, when I draw larger works on paper, which I'm doing a set of now, I draw with the ebony. I do it all first in the ebony. It's still a professional, really good pencil to use. And I think they're like, I don't know what, 30 cents a piece or something like that. Get a box of 12 from Dick Blick. You won't regret that. So those are good. And then I have mechanical pencils are fun, but it's hard to shade with mechanical pencil, but Robert's got one. If you want really fine kind of technical lines, a mechanical pencil is good. If you're into cross hatching and shading that way, mechanical pencil is good. I put a red lead, which you can get from Pentel, into this one, and I use that when I travel because it doesn't smear, and it's really easy, and it tells me when I'm traveling when I use the red lead, so I like that. And then yeah, here's another one. This one is made by Molotow, but Montana, a number of companies make them. These are like rapidograph technical pens, but you can get them sometimes with wide tips. These are markers. So this delivers a really consistent black ink line, which is great. Okay, won't go too much into all those. Another thing, which seems like you shouldn't really have to pay for, but is also nice if you're learning to render, is this, it's called a tortillon, which is kind of a rolled up piece of paper that you pay for, which you can also just roll up a piece of paper, but these are really tightly rolled and they're kind of nice to use. And if you're working with the ebony pencil and you want to just kind of smear the black, if your line is too sharp and you want to get more shading, then you can rub it with the tortillon. So a lot of renderings that you see, graphite renderings that you see that look very smooth, the edges look very smooth, they're working a lot of times with this, sometimes called a stump, and they rub it that way. Another way to get that kind of smoothing effect is with an eraser. So if you don't have an eraser, I would suggest give eraser work a try. There are a lot of ways to go with the eraser. I have like one hard edged white eraser, which like could be used in school. These are really good. Yeah, Lauren's got an eraser. Awesome. This one is called a kneaded eraser. and it's kind of like plasticky. I don't know. It's like a rubbery, and you if you need a clean part, you just kind of knead it a little bit, and you get a clean part. And the nice thing about the kneaded eraser, since it's like a little piece of Play-Doh, is that you can shape it. So if you need to erase a very fine point or something like that, you can just touch a little point to it. So you often see on you, if you watch a lot of YouTube drawing videos like I do, you'll see some of the people that do really fine rendering work. They use the kneaded eraser, or they'll use sometimes the end of a Q-tip or something like that to smear with, like something like very fine tools. This is another eraser. It looks like a pen, but it advances like a pen, but it's eraser material in there. And I forget what this one's called, but they're pretty easy to find, this kind of thing. And then if you like to erase more precisely, and you have to think like, well, you're drawing the line and you think of that as the figure, but the space that you take away is also a mark in itself. So in fact, there are a number of artists whose work is all about what they take away as much as what they put down. So don't ignore the eraser. So that's another. So I'm just encouraging you to take a lot of materials, try a lot of materials, have a lot of fun. That's really the bottom line of this is if you're not enjoying it, fine, I hope you will. I hope you'll find a way to enjoy it and not think of it as work. So, and I want to say a note about practice. As we go on, I'm going to give a lot of exercises, and you can follow those or not, but it's really mandatory that you practice, that you do daily practice. And the best way I've heard this said is that it would be like if you read a cookbook, but you never went in the kitchen. If you can come and hear what I have to say, but if you don't go break some eggs and make something that maybe you don't like at first, and then you do like, and then you examine your feelings about it, etc. You don't get into it and start to struggle with making. You won't get very far, especially with what I have to say. So you have the tiniest little bit of discipline. And I have this really great story because I had a friend who really swore that they wanted to get into a drawing practice, but wouldn't do it, and didn't understand really quite what they were going to get out of it. They were very intent on getting something back. And so I said, well, look, just because two things help. One is having a place to work. That's not always possible. But if there's a place in your house, a corner of a table, by the bed, on the bedstand, someplace where you can have your materials sort of consistently, that helps. And the other is to have a time and to say every morning, just when I get up, or just before I go to bed, or just at lunchtime while I have a minute or two, that's going to be the time. It's great to have a time when that you're going to practice. And I'm confident that if you're not a daily practitioner, if you start that habit, the feedback is going to be so beneficial that it's going to be something you'll want to try. But it might take, it won't be the first day. But anyway, so I had my friend, I said, just use this tiniest little bit of discipline, and just before you go to sleep, just if you remember, just remember that even remembering is enough. Even if you don't make a drawing the first day, but you think about it, already is good. Just to want to do it is a good start. Okay, and then you're going to say, okay, then a week of wanting to do it, then you're going to get some pencil paper out. Okay, and then you're going to have the paper there. Okay, and so this person, yes, I said, just make a few lines, and they made a few lines. That was all they could do the first few days. They made a few lines. Okay, and then after a little bit of that, they already had the habit. They knew they were going to do it, and then they were getting a little like maybe embarrassed or whatever, or maybe they felt a little stronger or a little more confident, and then they were able to make a few more lines, and then a few more lines, and sure enough, over time it became something that they look forward to, and then they had this moment when they looked back. Maybe it was 3 weeks or so of doing that, and this is why I like the cards, because they kind of stack up, but the notebook will show you the same. You look back, and then they saw that there was more there on that first page than 4 lines. There was some hope, and there was some idea about what it was they were doing, and there was some anger, and in the quickness of the line there was impatience, and it turned out that they were able to read into that very simple drawing that they did very quickly lots and lots about their state of mind and where they were and who they were and what they were thinking they were doing, just in that. And so I'm very interested in that kind of experience where we can combine the mark making and this this revealing of ourselves. It's kind of opening up of what's actually going on and how we reveal that to ourselves as we draw. And I've talked to some of you already about that. And when we get to the reading parts, we'll talk more about it. But I think this is where the two really blend. The drawing and meditation really blend very well, because with the tiniest little bits of mindfulness of watching what we're doing while we're doing it, and always turning a little bit to this question of where it's coming from, like what is happening in our mind while it's going on, and where is that decision maker that decides that this line is long enough or this line should be at this angle to the other line. Who is that decision maker? What's the nature of that in our minds that brings us to this energy of wanting to create, and then has a certain discernment, this certain idea about what it should be. And we find there are threads of social convention in that, there are threads of fear in that, there are threads of joy in that, and somewhere also is our true nature just kind of woven into that. And as we go more and deeper into our mindfulness and watching those things, we can kind of unravel that whole fabric of ourselves and begin to understand much more about where it's coming from. Okay, so I had about 10 more pages of notes for tonight. I've talked to some people about it. I mean, the book came out maybe 3.5 years ago, and so I've had all that time to, and a lot of this material, some of it came from the book, but a lot of it's new. And I'm really, it seems like trying to put together something else, something further than what was there. So it's just a great benefit for me to have you here to talk to. So I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and participating in this, and how much it brings to me, and how happy I am to be able to, at this time, have something that hopefully will give people just a simple practice that you can do anywhere at home at any time that might bring you some relief from anxiety or boredom, and also that as a community we can share together. So I want to say we have this will be for the foreseeable future on Thursdays with more structure and more teaching, but also on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock Eastern, we have a drawing bee, which is more of a social time. So everybody draws, and on Tuesdays I give a prompt, but it's just we have fun together, and somehow there's some energy in the group that happens that like people meditate in a group when they could very easily meditate at home, but there's something about being in a group that makes a difference. And if you feel that Tuesdays, you're quite welcome. And then at 11 to 12 on weekdays, Monday to Friday, Robert and I for sure, and others, Terry, we do silent drawing. So if you want to have an hour of, or as much time really, you can show up for as much as you want. Beverly is there often, and people sometimes come in halfway and do a half an hour or 15 minutes. So if you want a quiet time to have that group support and interaction, 11 to 12 is good. Michelle has a group on
the 9 p.m. one is on every day at the moment.
Okay, yeah. So at the moment we also have not just Tuesdays at 9, but every night at 9. Yeah. Okay. And also you want to say about your group on Saturday at 4? Is that just, no? Okay. So there's also another creative contemplative group, but if you're interested, let me know. So there's a lot going on in the creative contemplative overlap community. And the more I learn about it, the more I find out not only ways of practicing and benefits of practice, but how historically art and meditation have combined. And so I hope to bring a lot of that out for you guys and develop that material. So I'm not going to go on much more because it's almost 9 and a bunch of people will come in and do some more drawing. If you want to hang out and do more drawing, there'll be more or less a bee happening around 9 o'clock tonight. And other than that, I have time, maybe 1 or 2 questions if there are any, or any feedback that anyone wants to throw in.
Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you,
a
Ben.
question.
Okay.
You mentioned that you draw every day, sometimes several times a day. And is the practice to stick to trying to just get a drawing done and move on? Is there something about moving forward at a certain pace that's helpful? Because what I found is that I'll get attached and I'll keep going until I've done a whole thing on a little square card. So am I phrasing that? Do you get what I'm trying to ask you?
Yeah. There are really no rules about it. Truthfully, you could draw daily on a single card for a week, a year, this kind of thing. And in fact, I have some cards which I come back to.
Okay.
I didn't really talk about how we know when it's done, but that same discernment that you use to decide when the line had gotten long enough, you can amplify to use for a whole drawing. And you should work on it and develop that sense of when it's done. And then when it's done, it's done. So there's no rush and there's no count of it. It just happens that turns out to be my pace, and it worked out for me.
One more question. Was that your pace right from the start 20 years ago, or did you labor over some of them long?
My pace 20 years ago was about 4 to 5 seconds or something like that. I was in a great rush. So yeah, for me to be patient and spend a week on a drawing and I do, but it's not my style. Yeah.
So you're saying your pace
Thank
now is
you.
My pace now is I mean, it takes me to do a drawing probably takes 20 minutes to an hour, depending on if I color it or not. That's just kind of how I work on this scale, which has maybe to do with my attention span, or maybe that's the length of a meditation. I don't really know, but I don't really question that so much, but I do challenge myself. The larger sculptural works take months and months to do, and I do spend much more time on them. But I think it's an intuitive process. I mean, there's a way to know and a way to make decisions about whether you're challenging yourself and whether you're developing things and how aware you are of what's going on. But I think certainly in a daily practice, you should just work with what feels good. Go from that joy. Find that joy first in it, and if you're loving doing it, it'll let you know how long it'll take.
What's the size of those cards?
5 inches by 6 inches. Yeah, that's because it was the 25 by 30 larger card I cut down. That's why they got to be that size 20 years ago. That's kind of arbitrary, but that's what they became. All right, well, thank you everyone. And we hope to see you some of our events, and I hope to see you, next week.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very, very much. Very much.
Thank you, John.
Look forward to it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm staying to keep drawing. Can I just stay, or do you want me to go out?
No, stay. No, if you want to stay for the bees, hang out. I'm going to hang out and
I'll
talk some.
stay too.
Okay.
Stay.
This is like going for drinks after class.
Oh, if it's
I'm gonna
drink,
get a drink,
I'm
guys.
there.
I have to take my dog out, but I'll be back maybe.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Good to
Okay.
see you, Sharon.
Oh,
I'm going away.
Are you going to be
temporarily.
on for? Are you going to be on for another hour?
You
Or
will
what do you
be
think?
on, probably another hour.
Okay, I'll probably. See ya.
I'm going to refill my tea. John, thank you very much. This is going to be really fun. So
Oh,
thank you
yes.
in advance. It's
I'm
I'm
really,
so glad for this. Yeah.
I'm glad you're happy about it. I have so much material.
can't wait.
I have
Keep
so much
going
stuff.
until you finished all your material. Like, just,
It'll be 6 months or something. I don't know.
yeah.
But
So
I-
timely.
I'm not trying to jinx it, but I do feel like there's something else developing, you know, there's like another, I don't know if it'll be another book, but it'll be some more formal project out of the notes and things. Cause it's just so much
Another
good
book.
stuff. Maybe another book. I don't know.
Yeah.